Hey, hey everyone. It's been ages since I've done a stream and awesome, there's 4 people here. How awesome. How you going? Um, so I'm using just the laptop today because I didn't have enough time to um, get everything sorted. I was just down at the community garden. I just got back and it was pretty cool. I was chatting to people there about what we're going to do with the orchard and I was checking on the garden and it was really cool. So I'm like looking after the orchard with other people. So there's another woman, and together we sort of will head the orchard. Um, and since doing the permaculture course, it's given me a lot of confidence for everything, and it's exciting because things that I've learnt during the course, I'm able to bring to the orchard and make things better. I mean, they're already good, but you can always make things better. And so I didn't have time to set up the better camera. So you'll have to bear with me with this one, but this is the one I've used for most of the streams. I could probably make the light a bit better. Maybe will that make more light on me? No, it doesn't light me better, does it? And now you've got a bright light in the corner. So if I light up the wall, there we go. We'll see what that's like. I could get that light to see. That'll be better. So yeah, there's more light on me here. So it's a pity I wasn't able to be prepared better while I got here, but hey, I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad you're here. And when I started the stream, there was like 6 people in the stream. I was like, wow. And so it's been ages. I used to do the regular streams, and I miss everyone. All the people that would come to this chat in the stream, and we'd share things that we'd do to help heal ourselves from trauma. And I understand that people are busy. I haven't been here regularly enough, but I appreciate all the support I get from everyone. But I look forward to hopefully doing these streams more regularly now. So what's been going on? The difficulties that I've been facing with my fiance being stuck in America when she should be here. And our child is being looked after. She's in a shelter for women, pregnant women, and that's really good. And they're looking after her, and there's lovely people there, which that's good. But we're not together, and I haven't really been able to speak too much about it, but she wants to be here with me. I want her to be here with me. And ideally, our child would be born here in Australia, but it's not. It's going to be born in America, and that's fine. I'm going to have to go to America next year. Glitch is here. Jana, basic glitch says, "Hi, Almighty Luke," and then says, "Sorry." Oh, don't be sorry. But like you're probably hearing about like what I'm talking about with yeah, it is, and yeah, it is sad, and I appreciate that because it is you're showing empathy towards me, and in the situation my fiance, myself, and our baby are in. So yeah, I have to go to America to be there for my fiance, and this is very difficult because I'm been working on starting a business for the last year and a half, and that's being affected by this. But I'm not going to let it. I'm not going to let it. I'm not going to let it cause the business to not succeed. So, what is this? What is it? I've been going through this horrible time, and my fiance's was forced to go back to America, and unjustly. So, and it's torn us apart, and our family apart, and so again, another unjust situation. But we're not going to let it affect us. We're both staying positive. So in the last 2 months, I've been really feeling a lot of pain over this, and it's affected me a lot. And I've managed to stay pretty positive, but it has affected me to the point where I was bedridden at times, and I just could not do anything. But then I would get the energy to work on things around the house, working on the garden, both gardens, getting the food happening. I went away to do the practical part of the permaculture course I just did. So I can look back at the last couple of months and go, look, I have managed to, get this stuff, get things happening, and I do. I walk around the garden, and I'm amazed at seeing all this stuff growing. So yeah, it's affected me for probably 60-70% of the time. So the last 2 months, 60-70% of the time, I was incapable of really getting any positive action happening. But then the 30-40% of the time, I was. And so I did manage to get a lot of stuff done in that very difficult time. So I'm glad about that. And that's why I was sharing that stuff here, doing streams, and it really it meant a lot to me to be able to show that and to know that I got people there that care for me and are seeing that and knowing what I'm going through. And so I'm sort of letting you know like how difficult it was for me at the same time. And you could probably see it, you could hear it in my voice or see it, how I was really in a lot of pain. And I'm in a lot of pain at the moment, but not as bad as what it was in those last 2 months. As I'm now at a point where I know what I have to do to get to my family and to be there for my child being born. Understanding how it is going to affect me launching my business, but also understand that I can't do anything about that. And I can look back at the fact that even though I was bedridden for 60% of the time for the last 2 months, I wasn't for the other 40%. And I can look at what I did get done was really good basis for getting my strength back. So this coming week, almost every day I'm going to be up in the bush, in the mountains, making videos to promote my bushwalking nature therapy business and the mindfulness, as well as making some beautiful nature videos, which I'll share with the camera that I got a couple of months ago. And it's now, that's exciting. And see, I can look back at the last while and go, well, why didn't I go up the mountain bushwalking a month ago and start making those videos? And I can say, well, I wasn't in the position to do that because I was too depressed to have that energy. But what I could do was work in the garden, plant stuff in the garden. That was really good. Because now I have all these plants growing, all this food everywhere. It's amazing. And it's getting more and more established too. And I'm setting it up, the garden, so that early next year when I go to America, I am going to be able to leave the garden as it is and it'll look after itself. And I'll be able to come back and it won't be too much work to get it back to the next thing. So that's pretty exciting. And I feel confident in what I'm doing with that. We got Paige here. How you going, Paige? It says, the rain hasn't helped either. For a bit, it was like the weather was crying with you. Yes, that is a good point. What happened is the rain, we've had a lot of rain, above average November rain for this area. And it has been good because it meant that I didn't have to go and water all the time. But it also meant a lot of the seedlings that I sprouted got damaged by the rain because I don't have a shade house for seedlings, which is really important, because to get a good result from all the seeds that you put in the ground, a shade protected thing for the seedlings is very good. And so that might be something I think about next time I do that. But I've learned a lot with more and more. I'm going to limit what plants I plant in pots or raise in trays or pots, seed stock, compared to just throwing seeds on the ground and letting nature just, that method of natural farming, I'm having good result from that. So I've been sort of trialing it, mixing the dispersing of seeds by just naturally throwing them around the place, but and putting them in places where I think that the seeds will grow. I'm not just throwing them everywhere. I'm throwing in particular places. So, the more I'm doing, the more I'm learning. And now there's something that I used to get a lot from having failures with trying to grow plants and food and vegetables, and herbs and things, is when you get too many failures, you get disheartened and you don't want to keep trying and you give up. Even though every time I did that in the past, I could look at what I was doing and while I was doing it, I could see that it wasn't going to work out perfect. But I was like, well, this is all I've got, so I'll try. And then I would get failure, and then I would get angry at myself for not doing it properly, not giving it enough attention. And then I realized that all those things were learning things. But I did notice I would keep making those same sort of mistakes. And then so since I did the course, I realized, there's certain things you don't compromise on because you can guarantee that you're not going to get a good result. So don't even put your energy into that. And in fact, permaculture and syntropic gardening or syntropic farming is, the idea is to do is least, to get the highest success rate with the least amount of effort, because we don't have much time. And the reason why I would have failures in trying to get some plants growing would be I just didn't put in the effort or the time. So if I'd set up these gardens to be more resilient, then I would have got success. But I didn't know how to do those things then, at least to the extent that I do now. But the thing is, we all learn as we go. Like with gardening, it's good to read, learn, watch videos, listen, ask questions. But you have to do. You have to do the do. You have to make it happen. Dana says, "You speak to my soul." Oh, those are a bit blurry. Oh yeah, but I apply it for something else. Oh right, RN. The last couple of days, my vision's gone blurry, and I don't know if it's tiredness. I can't see it being a vitamin deficiency because I've been taking a lot of vitamins. Stress. Haven't been drinking much alcohol at all. I don't know what's caused it, but anyway. Yeah, sorry, I'm just distracted. But Janice basically says, "You speak to my soul right now, but I apply for something else." Exactly. Isn't that beautiful? That gardening, the principles of permaculture and gardening and farming and all that can be applied to so many things, just to life in general. And so it's really such a great analogy, because everything you learn or everything you do with these things, it's so universal. And that's why it is powerful. So things like, it's difficult to, I didn't try growing anything for so long because I didn't have space, all this stuff. But looking back, I had lots of opportunity to still have stuff growing, and it's amazing what people can achieve in such small areas. So that's something I want to try and do, is to actually, I might do that, start doing a YouTube video series of growing some food with the very limited amount of space. And that's something that everyone has, a limited amount of space. Not many people have ample or space. So if I can explain what you can achieve in a very small area, that's something that we can all do. And it would be just amazing, because then the more connected we are, the more we're going to all share and learn. So but for some people, it's not compatible. It's not like their thing that they're interested in or whatever. So in that case, that's fine. Rather than growing food, there could be some other thing that you could apply this to for your life. And so that's going to be something I'm going to start sharing, what you can achieve in a small space, and how to actually how to grow soil, how to build soil without having access. So let's just say you've got a few square meters on a balcony and you don't even have, that's all you really have. You don't have a yard. How do you make soil? Well, say you live in an apartment block or units or something. You could go for a walk and go and pick sticks up off the ground. Now, sticks aren't going to break down. You can't really have a compost heap. What you could do is have some buckets to build soil. You can go and collect compost. You can pick leaves up off the ground and fill up bags, bring them back home, and then use them as mulch. If you've got a little bit of space, say you've only got a few square meters, you could have buckets, like paint buckets that they throw away. Collect them, put leaves and grass clippings and your vegetable waste from your kitchen, put them in these buckets, and you could compost, and you could actually put the plants on top, like with the lid of the bucket, and then you put your pot on top that you're growing, because the bucket's going to sit there for 6 months while it composts, and you can just keep adding to it, until I think when it gets full, then you write the date on it and say, well, I'll turn it over, but I won't use it in the soil until a certain time. So then when you go to make soil, you don't have to buy big bags of potting mix. You've already got usable materials to make your soil. And that's what's going to make the real good stuff that the plants need. Now, plants are just the same as us. We're living organisms, and we need the same, everything except for, well, we need carbon dioxide just as much as we need oxygen, because the carbon dioxide then feeds the trees, which then gives us oxygen. So indirectly, whereas trees and plants might be the opposite. They need the carbon dioxide to breathe to give us the oxygen. But as far as nutrients, we need the same things. So we need, minerals. We need vitamins. We need carbohydrates, sugars, and nitrogen. Now that's one thing. I mean, we're consuming nitrogen constantly as we breathe. So most of the air is nitrogen. So the more I'm learning about, if you want to build soil, if you want to make earth, build earth, then you need to not only give what the plants need, but you need to give put in the soil, you need to give what the microbes and like the beneficial bacteria and the small organisms that live in the soil, you need to feed them, because they feed the fungal, the mycelium, which then makes minerals available for the roots of the plants to then. It's just this great symbiosis in nature, and most of it is happening underground, under the earth. And so for us, like me, thinking about getting being as healthy as possible moving forward, I'm learning about all this stuff. While I'm learning about what the plants need, I'm learning about what the body needs to heal itself and to go stronger. So I've got GORD or GERD, which is where basically your stomach acid comes up into your esophagus and it burns it. Now I'm learning more about the upper digestive tract, and it's meant to be basically sterile. And then I've got ulcers from stress and stuff. So it's a double whammy. So I need to heal the ulcers, the ulcer, and I also then need to heal the upper digestive tract. And I want to get all that beneficial bacteria in my digestive system. And then so now I'm learning about what I need to do. So making, like eating fermented foods, or better still, making your own fermented foods, you're basically giving yourself liquid fertilizer in, food, energy. But it's not just the food, it's the microbes and the bacteria. And it's amazing how much for healing trauma, any form of mental pain like depression, anxiety, all that, the stomach is so intrinsically connected to the whole body, and not just the nervous system, the whole body and the brain. So getting the good bacteria, getting the good microorganisms in the stomach, feeding it with the right food, that's going to have a massive effect overall. And so it does. The beauty of with gardening and growing food, permaculture and tropic, is you see the results and you actually even feel them. Like when I'm doing the right thing, it can be very low effort, but I know whatever I'm doing is going to have a really good effect. And it's this sense thing, but it's not a sense like I think this might. It's like, and that you're just like, regardless of what the outcome is, I'm going to be happy because I'm confident on this. Whereas not having that knowledge, you don't know. So it's a good positive reinforcement. And then when you don't have even if you don't have good results, then you're going to get some results and you're going to learn from, even if it doesn't work out. So I'm really appreciating these things. Another big thing is with gardening, and when you put time and money into something, I got to a point where it's like I am going to continue investing money into things, but I'm working out how to do things for the cheapest possible way. So I'm making my own liquid fertilizer with by fermenting vegetables and organic matter. And now I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to keep doing this, and I want to integrate liquid fertilizer into the community garden now. Sometime, it might take a year or so. But I've said to them, I'm learning how to do this, and I'm going to build a Venturi system where it takes the liquid fertilizer and puts it into the water supply for the irrigation system, which I'm going to build. So I'm going to build this system, and then I said, maybe in a year's time, I'll be able to set up this system here at the garden, and we'll be able to do the same thing. But it's also opening up massive possibilities as something I can do as a business. So with this not-for-profit that we've been working on, one of the things is having multiple revenue streams to pay for it, because we want to pay for most of it ourselves. Like we'll be relying on people helping us, donating, helping us get going, but then we want it to run it, like generate its own income or whatever, and then that keeps it going. And the people that are working in it, they actually benefit massively themselves, because it's enabling them to have this place for healing and growing. But then also they could get work out of it, so they could make money out of it and improve their life even more. And so I've been thinking about, I could make liquid fertilizer and activated charcoal and sell these products to for gardeners, permaculture people. I'm seeing money in waste, grass clippings and leaves and fruit and vegetable scraps that they throw away. I'm like, give it to me for free. I'll make fertilizer out of it, and it's so much better than other forms of fertilizer too, because if it's a biodynamic fertilizer, it's got all those nutrients and from that area, but also the microorganisms that are from that area. So it's going to work even better than any other fertilizer that you put on. Like, you could spend big money on fertilizer and it could be full of microbes and beneficial bacteria, but they aren't adjusted to your local environment. They might have come from hundreds of kilometers away. So they're not going to have as positive effect. So there's multiple advantages in that. And if I keep working on this, when we get the not-for-profit happening in a year's time or whatever, like we might be registered. We're hoping to be registered by the end of the year, but that's not going to happen now. Next year, it'll get registered, and I'll have done all this setting up so that we could make a business out of it or a revenue stream. So we could be making charcoal, crushing it up, inoculating it with the liquid fertilizer full of the microbes, and selling it as activated biodynamic charcoal. And using it ourselves, using it on our own gardens, which we then grow food, which feeds everyone. So that's exciting. I know that there's a lot of opportunity there for this. So that's how I'm getting by at the moment, staying positive. So I can't really go into detail about what happened, but my fiance was taken from me against my will and her will. Neither of us wanted this to happen. I can't go into details, but there was malfeasance that occurred. The main thing is for me to get to America, to be there for my child's birth, and that we can then, as a family, the three of us come back to Australia. So I've started a GoFundMe to help with that, and I will share sometime. I won't today, but I will share in the future if anyone wants to help with that, because I can't afford this whole thing to go. But you know what? It'd be money well spent, you know. Jana basically says, yeah, send me the link. Send the link. Oh, thank you so much, Jana. I'll tell her too that there's a lot of support. So much love. That's really special. I will send the link for sure. You know. So I've looked at I can't work when I'm there unless I get a working visa, but I'll be getting just a tourist visa. But I've looked at, there's 4 or 5 charities I'd like to volunteer at, which they could sponsor me to basically allow me to go there. And I've got to explain to them that I need to go and stay in this city for a couple of months. So I need somewhere to stay, and I'm happy to volunteer so many hours a day. But every day I'll be going to visit my fiance. Because we're in a situation that we can't even afford, like, after the child's born, she's going to have to stay at the women's shelter for a couple of weeks at least, maybe a month. I don't know. Just in that recovery period. It might even be 2 months. I don't know. But in that time, like, I won't be staying with her. I'll be staying separately and all I can do is visit every day. Basically, it says, just because my plants didn't grow because I don't know what to do and are terrible at cues doesn't mean that I will not support others. Well, see, you know, that's a great, I like that attitude, because, you know, especially with gardening and stuff, people say, oh, I'm not a green thumb or whatever, you know. But I think we all, like, fail with growing stuff. And then it's so easy to just go, oh, well, but then that doesn't stop us from appreciating other and wanting to help others. So I like that. I like that attitude because, it also what you're saying there is that you don't not try to grow plants. You just may not have had good success at times. So, and it's interesting because we all have such different environments all over the world. So it's very like the weathers can be pretty harsh here. It can get very hot, very dry, very humid. We don't really get the very cold. So that's one thing we don't get here. It does get cold in winter, but we never get frosts. But I'm learning all that stuff too, is what you can grow, where you can grow it. So people have said to me about what's been going on, of how I'm able to stay and even communicate, and how I'm not a complete wreck. Well, for starters, most of this time, 60% of the time at least, in the last couple of months, I've been lying in bed just trying to not even think, not think, because it would get me upset. It would be overwhelming. So I was focusing on staying calm and being calm, and not allowing myself to get upset. And my response to people when they said that to me, I was like, well, I have been through some extreme stuff in my life, and this has really rocked me. But I'm managing to deal with it, and that's good. And and even just the fact become in the act of becoming a parent, I want to be reserved and strong, and to be able to deal with things. I need to be able to. If I'm responsible for not only the child but my partner, we're all responsible for each other, and a lot in those sense. So I'm more confident about being good parent, and that's good. Basically says, yeah, but he was trying so much it twisted my stomach that I didn't know I couldn't speak to him because I have block. And today I found out that I just blocked myself. Sorry to hear that. Like, basically it continues, really holding fingers on becoming dad. Oh, thank you. Thank you. It means a lot. I appreciate that. You know, and it is going to be exciting. And each day I feel more and more confident. And just because I've gone through some horrible things in my life, doesn't that I've held that as a block myself for those things, where I've always known that I'll be an amazing parent, and I'll be good. I'll do everything right for everyone, I mean, everyone makes some mistakes, but I'm going to be really good parent, um, and I'm going to be able to do it. I'm going to be able to. I have the confidence, and I know that in the past I've had those blocks myself where I've felt inadequate, and I've had status anxiety massively. With people I grew up with, they all became parents a long time ago and became successful in their lives and things. And then I would compare that. So that, it's very hard not to compare, but it is something that we hold because we're reminded of it. Now, anyone who's either single or childless will know people judge you, and they're like, oh, so and so, they just don't expect they don't expect me to ever find love or get married or be a parent. They just don't think it's. And then some of that's my perception of what they may be thinking. But you know what? You do get reminded of it. If I get reminded of it. So I'm talking from experience here. So that feeds into self-doubt. People denigrating or knocking you down, making you feel lesser. That then increases the perception that there is a perception that the perception that people think that I'm not necessarily as capable as what I am. And the more I think about it, and you hear that, people say, don't listen to what people say or care what they think of you. It is so far from the reality. And then when you base if you're changing, or if you're not succeeding at something because of that, it's based on a speculative that you can never even prove. Because, and even if you could prove, it's based on a speculation. So it's someone's opinion. Yourself. So, having confidence in yourself, it's not easy though. Anyone who's been bullied or been talked down at, made to feel inferior, infantilized, any of those things, you have to deal with that. Your own self-perception is going to be affected by, it's going to be inflated by what other people say or think. But don't let that stop you, but at saying that, I did for so long. I let people, it's something that we should change. This whole thing with humans is that no, and maybe it could be a mantra that we say to ourselves. It's like saying, like, I'll think of an example. When I was in my, when I was 20 years old, I think, a whole bunch of friends that I'd grown up with, they were all going on overseas for a year, traveling around the world, doing their travel around the world, which is great. But I had just gone through major traumas, like end of high school, major trauma. Um, and it just continued. There's 4 or 5 things that happened in a couple of years. And when all my friends were all getting to be themselves, I had all this stuff happen. And at the same time, I was experiencing a lot of emotional abuse, people making fun of me, knocking me down, which I was then internalizing in the self hatred, self doubt, and it was feeding a defeatist attitude, because the people that I was around were making fun of me, and they were all making fun of me, not just generally that other people, like everyone cops it. No, it was things to do with my ability to be responsible or to achieve. And so I'll give you an example. When they were all going overseas, someone said to someone important to me, "Oh, how come Luke's not coming overseas with us? We're all going overseas for a year and that." And this person said, "Oh, Luke can't even keep his room clean." Right? Now that carried with me for like 25 years, the pain of someone saying that. Now, the person that asked that question thought it was a good idea to come back to me and tell me, "Oh, I was speaking to so-and-so the other day." And I said, "How come Luke's not coming overseas?" And they said, "He can't even keep his room clean." So not only was I denigrated by this person, made to seem like I'm useless, this other person thought it was their business to come and tell me that they had gone to this other person to talk about me as to why I am not capable enough to go on a year-long trip around the world that they were all doing. And I had this massive, it stuck with me, and it still sticks with me. People can be so cruel. So in those situations, know that there's good people out there that are loving and caring. But if you have people that think that it's going to toughen you up by denigrating you, no, it's just going to push you down and knock you down. The best thing to do is to just acknowledge, and then acknowledge that it exists, but don't acknowledge what they're saying, because it doesn't matter. Do your own thing. Focus on yourself and still be caring and compassionate to those around you. The sad thing is that sort of denigration and narcissistic abuse, it just shuts us down and we give up. So that's what's happened to me for such a long period of time. It would be, I would just give up. I wouldn't completely give up, but I would essentially give up and not, and then I would feel upset. And I think about this all the time with a lot of the art and music and stuff. It's like I have this pain because I'm not playing guitar or my Japanese flute or drawing or painting or sculpting or any of these things that would give me joy, but it would create pain. And then I have this thing, well, I have all this lifetime that I never got. So I have to keep reminding myself that I'll get back to it. And I do a little bit by little bit, and since getting some stuff growing in the garden, it's made this, beautiful places where I can sit down and enjoy, and the community garden, it's a really good community. And for me, being someone who's like pushed away from social groups, to be able to reconnect, and it's given me hope. So I know I've just been jumping all over the topics here, but I hope there's been enough cohesion or sort of flow That we, if I'm talking about something, I can reference what I'm trying to talk about and give you an example, and to qualify or clarify. And in a lot of ways, it's just free flowing thought. Essentially, thought patterns can go into the positive and into negative spaces. Now, if you go far on one side, if you are so optimistic and positive in your thought patterns and what you're thinking about and you're pondering, or you're recapitulating, or you're thinking about, it can go so far into the positive that you are fanciful or delusional, and you're going to cause yourself more problems. You're not thinking that. Now, you pull back a little bit. What's wrong with having a positive outlook? As long as you're following that up with action, doing things, focusing on in building up strength and knowledge in different areas as you go. Have those bold dreams. Now, I used to get made fun of because I'm an ideas person. I'm a generalist, ideas person. I would invent things, come up with ideas. I came up with the idea for Wikipedia and Kickstarter years before both of those websites existed. And I was made fun of. I was denigrated and made fun of by people when I told them about this idea. And they told me, it'll never happen. You're dreaming. You think you can, that's way too much. And they would look at me like, oh, what are you doing? Like, you're trying to do this thing that's never going to happen. And no, they're the one telling me it's never going to happen. And they get off when I give up. So don't let them win. Don't pay attention to them. Now, there are times, if you say, oh, I'm going to go walk barefoot into the desert without any food, and I'm going to travel across, and they're going to go, no, that's dangerous. That's silly. That's fair enough. But if you go, I'm going to go on a hike across the country, and they don't think, obviously you're going to make sure you're not just going to go do something blindly. That's being silly, not doing things in a calculated way that's going to be safe for you. But it's not hurting anyone to dream big. You can arrive to the position. I mean, that's essentially that. It's that if there wasn't that, then people are only ever going to incrementally expand their awareness or consciousness or their ambitions. And that, if you don't have those long-term goals, then what's the point? Like, you're not going to be able to progress in that slow way because you're unable to actually see further than each compartmentalized step that you're on. Do you know what I mean? And a lot of times people will knock you down when you tell them what your dreams are, just because they're jealous. I don't want to go too deep into the behavioral psychology of a lot of these behaviors, but I do believe most of it's unconscious. That, you combine humans already having a negative bias and humans also having this now having this thing where they think that it's their right to have an opinion about your own personal things. It's not their right. If you ask for their opinion, they can tell you. But if you're not asking for their opinion, then it's like an attack. If you're not forcing anything on them, they have no right to really judge you for what you're doing. If you're not hurting anyone else, And if you're not hurting yourself, if you're hurting yourself, then they should say, hey, I'm concerned that you're going to regret this, or this is going to cause you damage. So so it has been a really difficult time. And this, I'm I'm not going to let anything stop me from reuniting my family. And it's not going to be easy. And I have to ask for support. And I appreciate everyone, you know, who's offered that support. And it's amazing. I hear, people basically it's just like, send us the link, So I'll put that stuff up soon. Um, it was really difficult in the last couple of months I couldn't just jump out. I couldn't just jump back to doing things and being super positive about everything, considering how much of a shock it has been, um, and how much my concern is to make sure my fiance is comfortable and not getting depressed and upset herself. She's got a baby growing inside her, and um, it's not good for either of them, if the mother's in that state. And she's already had to go through some pretty full on traumatic events. Like when our baby's born and grows up, I'm going to be like, geez, do you know what happened? Like in your, before you were even born, all the things that you had to go through with your mum. But see, I'm focusing on the future, knowing that that's where we'll be. We'll be in a position where we can look back at now and go, look at this, look at what we got through. I'm not focusing on other things, that could be upsetting to think about. So it's cool. There's people here in the stream, so I appreciate that. I hope you're all doing well. I know it's been so long since I've had regular streams that we haven't had the chat going on as much as it used to, and that's because of me not being able to have regular streams. And also, if the topic if the topic that I'm talking about is applicable, it can really be encouraging. It could encourage other people to comment and talk about, either they have ideas to help others, or they can share what their experience has been like. So um, tonight I've been sort of talking about things in a sort of rapid succession. So that doesn't make it makes it difficult to contribute in that situation. But you know, I I used to love those long chats we used to all have. So I do hope we get back to that in the future. So I'll make sure I try and do more regular streams, and that's going to be a big thing. So I hope everyone's doing all right. And things can be difficult, but I hope everyone's getting things that they can get something from their input. You know, like how I'm talking about growing. Whenever I walk outside and I see the stuff growing in the gardens now, I just feel good. And I know that there's all these plants I'm responsible for that I care about. And I know that it's not all going to be perfect, but I'm learning to appreciate nature as it happens. That's really helping. Basic Glitch says, and Chess, just joking, you're going to be dad soon. So I'm so excited for you. But oh yeah, no, the chess. We'll have to get back to the chess again. We'll have to do that again. That was so much fun. Maybe there's another game we could play. That'd be cool. The chess was so much fun. I really enjoyed that. But yeah, thank you so much, Jana. Basic Glitch. I appreciate that. You know, it's so it's made. I'm excited, and it's made me other people appreciating that it for me and being excited for me, but also knowing saying people telling me that they think that I'm going to be a really good father, and that's given me a lot of confidence. You know, there is a perception, with people who are living with trauma, that it is a major impairment or a disability, and it is there. It is an impairment, but it is certainly not a barrier. And in fact, it's not a barrier for everything. It is a barrier for some things, yeah, for sure. But like, so is everything. And my fiance and I are going to be amazing parents, and we're going to love each other. We're going to love our children. We're going to want to have a second child, maybe a third, but if it's only one child, then that's fine. But we're open to that stuff, and if we end up with 3 children, then yeah, that would be great. But whatever happens, we are going to be there, and we're going to make sure that it's not just a good environment, it's going to be a nurturing environment. And that being people that have lived with complex trauma for so long, I'm not saying it's an advantage at all, but I'm going to say it's given us strength to know that we can be amazing parents. and we're going to take it very seriously. And it's going to create a good environment for our children. That's not to say some people that are suffering from trauma can not be present for their children, and they can be dissociated, and that causes a lot of trauma for the children, or if they're hypervigilant. So they're always worrying or they're overthinking about things, that can be a detriment for the child. I'm well aware of all that stuff. And I think that being aware of that means that we're going to not have that as a problem. So we do live in a world where people like to knock other people down, or to, cast aspersions of not discontent, but sometimes discontent. Some people can be upset that you dare to dream or to have an imagination, or want to do something different on you, because it threatens their own safe, stable world that they've created for themselves, where they won't ever think about anything adventurous or different. So because it's confronting to them, so they will just close off, and then they will tell you it's not right, because they would then have to look at their own shortcomings. So it's good to actually look at people's or look at people's reactions or the way they treat you with empathy, but to not let it affect you. But also, don't let them go any further than what they are. If they go one step further, stop. You take one step back, or just walk away. But don't make it worse for them, because I guess sometimes people need to be called out. Like the bully, or the person who just will always put you down, make fun of you, especially in front of other people. You confide in them, and then they tell you you're useless, or you'll never be able to achieve that you don't have the abilities, rather than supporting you, saying, oh, it's risky, you could fail, but you know what? Hey, you could make it there. You could actually do something with that, rather than actually shutting you down. So rather than getting angry at them, it could be understand they were probably bullied themselves, and that not to make it worse for them, but to call them out. So, someone says, oh, so, for instance, you could say, oh, I'm starting a business. And I've lived with complex post-traumatic stress disorder most of my life, almost my whole life. Some pretty extreme stuff. I won't go into it, but hey, I'm going to take people for walks in nature, and I'm teaching mindfulness, and I'm doing some art therapy, some horticulture therapy, all that stuff. I know it works for me, so I want to share that with others. And it's not about trying to make people heal. They heal themselves. I'm just giving them a good environment and showing them that they can do this themselves, helping them get to that point where they can establish a practice for themselves in across all different things. Could be eating healthy food, it could be going for walks, it could be painting, creative, whatever it is. So this is what and then the negative person says, huh, you're dreaming. Like, that's a massive thing you're trying to think of. Like, that's going to take you years. You think you can do that? And they look at you funny. It's like, yes, I think I can do that. Got a problem with that. So how do you respond to someone like that? So if someone says, oh, that's full on. Have you thought about how much work goes into that? Do you realize how much, do you know how much that's going to take for you to actually get that to happen? Do you think you're going to be able to do it? This is exactly what they say to you. This is what they've said to me my whole life. All different people. I've had people supporting, don't worry. So if you've been supportive to me, you don't have to worry about that. These people that are like that, that's just the way they are. So when someone's like that, you say, yes, I am well aware of the immensity of what it is, but this is actually quite a simple business I'm trying to create. And it's honorable. And you know what? I'm going to give it a go regardless of whether it's difficult or not, because I know this is something that's important for not just me, but for other people. And then if you really need to, you can say, look, and you know what? I'm not going to pay any attention to your negativity, because if I was to not succeed because I listened to someone like you, I'll regret that. If I succeed, do you think you're going to regret treating me like a piece of shit and denigrating me, making me feel like I'm not capable? Trying to tell me that. Now, this is the thing. They're basing everything on speculative. It's easy for someone to say, you're dreaming, you'll never get there. That's impossible. That person, okay, then you say to that person, well, you go and do it and tell me it's not possible. Oh, why would I do that? That's not what I want to do. I don't even want to do nature therapy in that. I don't even go, go bushwalking, or I don't have complex traumatic stress disorder. Why would I even care? Well, someone's going to be saying that stuff. Don't even go any further. Just step back and walk away. But they're taking the easy way out. They're able to say, you're not going to be able to do it. It's impossible. And then they'll make it possibly even worse by trying to create an aspersion onto why they don't think, based on your traits or your abilities. It's all they're basing it on something that's not there. It's speculative. So yeah, if someone's like saying that stuff to you, you can say, look, I understand this is this is a big job. And this is when I used those examples earlier about coming up with the idea for Wikipedia and Kickstarter, just two examples. And they were years before both websites. Wikipedia was about a year before it was first mentioned, and Kickstarter was about 2 years before it existed. Both of those times, people told me that, oh, you're dreaming. That's way too much. You'll never do you realize how much is involved in that? It'll never, and then they say, oh, it'll never work. It'll never happen. And I did use an example in both of those cases where I said, look, I understand I'm not a web designer. I'm not a coder. I'm not a venture capitalist or anyone who's I don't have the money. I don't have the thing. Well, I've got the ideas, and I've thought about this for a long time, and I've got the passion to want to make this. So I will find people who are experts at all of these different things, and they will come together and make this happen. So it's not about me. In the end, if I wanted to make something like, and that's the same thing with the not-for-profit charity that we're creating. So yes, I may be the original founder, but then there's co-founders, and then there's contributors, you know what I mean? And there's the board directors, and then there's the people who dedicate their life to actually making it happen. So I'm not alone, you know, it's other people. Basically says, well, if they are deliberately trying to ruin your life, claiming that it's revenge, but revenge would be ruining your life once, not twice or more. There is a thing about certain stuff when it comes to the certain people where I know I look crazy, and I would say that it might be different person in mine. They physically did something to the whole monster spatch, but from their close friend. I think I understand what you're talking about. Is in those situations, some people don't give up. But one thing I have found is that, you know, that there is this thing about these narcissists that once they've ruined a part of your life, and they know they have, they still have a bit of guilt about it. They're not going to necessarily keep pecking at you, because sometimes they will, but maybe they pull back because they see it's too risky, or maybe they pull back because they have remorse. That's not necessarily going to stop. They might still be the same narcissist or psychopath that ruins other people's lives, but they're like, oh, I've already ruined this person's life, I can't go there anymore, I'll go on to someone else. That's what my guess of why they potentially stop at a certain point. You know what I mean? But I think there is that, because anything beyond that, it's like there is the, you know, the difference between that and ongoing narcissistic abuse is that subtle, continual attacking or belittling, keeping you in a state where you can't, you know. It's funny that whole thing. It's like someone saying, oh, that'll never work, you're useless, you can't make, you can't succeed, you know, or they'll say things like, oh, you know, you can't even yeah, you can't even like keep a job for more than a couple of years. How are you going to be able to do that? That sort of thing, right? And then they get this confirmation bias when if you don't succeed. But then what happens if you didn't succeed because you allowed their negative treatment of you affect you to the point where either you gave up or it caused problems because you're always stressed out about other people's perceptions. So all I can say is don't pay attention unless they're talking about unless they're doing it in a particular way, which you'll be able to notice. If someone's being reserved and courteous and conscientious towards how they're going to either support or criticize or constructively guide or have their opinion based on what you're trying to do, then they, if they're on the good side and they're doing it the right way, you'll hear it and you'll be like, yep, I'm happy. That criticism was good. I respect that. Thank you. But if it's out of spite, or it's to keep their supremacy and to keep you low and keep you down, then don't, but don't hold it against them too. It could be, depends on how strong it is, but it could be that like they don't realize they're doing it. Could be unconscious. Could be that they were conditioned to be like that. They were bullied over and over and over and over and over. And so they then continued on to you. But I don't think that happens in most cases. I think most of the time, people who get bullied a lot, they will support other people. They just won't be the bully. They won't continue it. You know what I mean? Where are we? Basically says they don't feel remorse. They become bored. I don't think that they have emotions. Look, I agree with that. I agree with that a lot. But actually, what I was trying to say is actually, I think that there's a chunk or a percentage that are like that. They are devoid of emotions, or they're bored. Absolutely. And this is a good tactic. If you've got someone who's bullying you, harassing you, don't give them attention, because that will get them to continue it. It's difficult, but just know when to like. I thought of that Kenny Rogers song. Gotta know when. Anyway. Basically, it says, yes, actually, exactly. I actually once almost cried in front of one person because it was for too long in past. I was thinking about ending it. Recently, I don't know if it was the same person, but it was all, I think this comment is going to continue on to another. MJG's here. Awesome. MJG says, good morning, Luke, Paige, Jana, and everyone, of course, with the heart. Awesome, MJG. So good to see you. So, yeah, Jana basically said put the next bit in. I'll continue the comment. So I'll read it again. Actually, once almost cried in front of one person because it was for too long in the past. I was thinking about ending it. Recently, I don't know if it was same person, but it was all wearing me down. I think, though, that I will become better. Anyways, good song. Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Good old Kenny Rogers. Got to know when to hold him. But that's a good. I like your optimism too there, basically. You think that you'll become better. That's it. I know you will. And you have. It's all about getting stronger and better and progressing. And I think that's what happens is that those who experience adversity or hardship abuse, difficult times, they grow out of that and they get better and stronger. And those that are, sometimes we regress. We progress, sometimes we regress. Those that, these emotionless abuser types, it gets sadder and sadder for them the further they go along. And they get to a point where they almost can't get back to a good place. And yeah. Some people do change, but others get stuck. So Paige says, hi MJG with the hearts, and Jana basically says MJG the hearts. That's beautiful. So everyone's saying hello back. It's been awesome doing the stream. I'm going to try and do it more often. And I'm really excited for, I can't really show you on the screen, but I've got my camera bag now ready for doing the nature photography and mindfulness videos and everything. So next week is going to be making a lot of stuff. I just wanted to Hey says, I'm really excited to see the new nature videos. Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. Exactly. It's funny. I was just wanting to show you like a video, but it's not letting me play. That's bizarre. I'll try not to get distracted. What I'm trying to say is that it's really exciting now that sorry, I can't put it on the screen, but here's one. You can't really see it. Anyway, I can't wait to show you. So next week. And yeah. Keep everyone keep doing your thing, being creative, caring for other people, care for yourself first, do things that make you happy, you know. If you know someone who's struggling or has been isolated, reach out to them and just let them know that you care. It doesn't have to be in a way that makes them feel upset. But doing things for yourself really helps. People see you investing in yourself and doing a little bit for others, then it'll encourage them. People, but you know what? There are so many self-absorbed and selfish people in the world that they get richer and more powerful at the expense of other people. And those people, when they those people, when they don't invest in themselves, it's like they invest in the money form of themselves, and money's based on, it's not real as well. So real wealth is generated by the human doing real things for themselves or for other people. And those that just want to gain from other people's output, I don't think the universe will look at them and go, yeah, you deserve all that money. You look at all of these industrialists that think that they're gods, they're like, well, but then they actually are causing damage to themselves and to everyone on the planet. And then they also think that they deserve all the money they get. But they're propped up by like faceless bankers behind them and other groups. And they generally receive massive amounts of being propped up by the governments of the world. Like, they only exist. It's insane, this paradox that these extreme industrialists hate humans, yet they're making things for humans, and they want to replace the humans that they hate with robots or AI because they don't want to pay for them and they hate them. But what they're producing is for humans. And they got all their money because of corruption and government handouts in the billions and trillions of dollars, which propped them up and created. They got their own. They even had governments wage war on other countries for their own private company interests. It's insane, the paradoxes that exist within people in this. And yet they think they are like gods, that they are creating life and they're doing this, and yet they hate the people that pay them. The peasantry, the serfs, pay for these people to exist and be powerful, and these powerful people that have their big yachts and own islands and bunkers and everything else and are involved in some very nasty, nefarious stuff, obviously, probably, speculatively, they get their businesses propped up through a socialist government system that only cares for big business. And this is essentially has occurred for the last 100 years at least. And going back throughout history, very similar things existed under different structures. So that's why authenticity is such an important thing. Like, why else? Like, what's more important? You know? I think I'm optimistic for the future. I know that there's going to be some very difficult times ahead in the world. We, as a species, humans, in this modern era, this Holocene, this antediluvian world, it's only existed for 10,000, 11,000, 13,000 years because it was an ice age before that. We're going back into an ice age. We've only existed in this way for this very fraction of time. And yet we're made to yeah, sorry. It's just I that whole paradox before when I was talking about like the rich industrialist that hates humans, yet everything they produce is for humans. And the lowest, cheapest form, no, sorry, people on the lowest end of the societal stratified spectrum are the ones that pay them for their profits, and that their business model is artificially created to create a monopoly or a hegemony that they use their ability to use compromised political figures to go against the people's will and to pay their private company or allow them to work without paying any tax, whereas everyone else has to pay the tax for them. And they think that they're this godlike people that are above all these little peasants down on the ground. I mean, it's and ironically, these people are emotionless, soulless. Maybe they're compensating. I don't know. In times like that, focus on yourself, improving whatever you can. It's not easy. In life, there are things that are barriers for us. So we have to find a way. We have to find a way to live within that system or whatever constraints that we have. So living with complex post-traumatic stress disorder is difficult. But it is humbling because it allows us to realize that we're not alone and that there's a lot of people on this planet that are not only living with the result of being in a traumatized state for an extended period of time, or they're living with the current results of that. That we aren't alone. And there's all the people who are living through the trauma right now, people in war-torn places and places where human rights are very weak. There is a big thing to keep humans from being compassionate and caring towards one another. So when I say, that's why I say focus on yourself and do what you can for others, because you need to do both. It's only the selfish. And when I say focus on yourself, that's doing things that are positive for you, nourishing. You know, for you to be able to help others or be there for others, you need to be there for yourself. So that's a big thing. But selfishness and being self-absorbed in a narcissistic way, that's different. That's at the expense of others. But, you know, it's been a really great afternoon. I appreciate everyone being here. I've enjoyed having a good chat. And I really like it when I go on these like thought train, just talking about things. And people respond that, yeah, like what I'm saying rings true to them and they can relate and they understand. So I appreciate that. And much love to everyone. I I look forward to doing this again, catching up again, and making it more often, or at least regular in some way. And I love this constructive thing where we talk about stuff here in a really good way. Like when we get these conversations going, and I appreciate it. People open up about their stuff. So Donna basically says, to you too. Wish you loads of luck and holding fingers. Thank you so much. Thank you, basically. I look forward to more updates about good stuff, and it's exciting that there are good things happening. I was in a bit of pain, with the immensity of all this stuff, but I'm ready for it all now and I'm excited. And once I get my strength back, is it going to be a big thing? So I've got to get my strength back by doing things more regular and increasing the duration and the frequency. And that's what's a big thing coming up. So much love to everyone. And we will catch up soon. There'll be videos, more gardening and nature videos and everything soon. So everyone that's been here, we had Paige, Jana, and MJG. Much love to you all. And we'll catch up again soon. And we'll keep this conversation going because humans are, there's a lot of these behaviors that humans have that are unconscious, they're learned behaviors, they're societal behaviors that get filtered down, right? So think of an oppressive workplace. Boss puts pressure, treats the employee as crap, right? The employee comes home, treats his wife like crap. Let's say it's a he. I don't want to make it a sexist thing, but we're just, okay, could be a woman, could be whatever. This person comes home, takes the treatment that came from the higher up, then treats their partner like that, right? Then their partner then goes and treats their child like that. Or you could look at it any other different thing. And essentially this is the layers of the pyramid or the skin of the onion or whatever, that each layer is going to affect the next layer. So we talk about breaking those cycles. We talk about not calling out what you see. What do you see? Some people have these ways of attacking each other. Like if you look at human language can be eloquent and poetic and beautiful and empathic and compassionate, or it can be adversarial. It can be attacking, destroying, eroding. So we have the choice. So we do. Anyway, we'll keep this conversation going and we'll focus on what we can do to improve our lives and those around us. And much love to everyone.